Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes and let a few more people join, and then we'll be off to the races and just give you a quick overview of our hybrid learning environments for those who are interested, and then we can go from there and answer any questions you have afterwards. If you have any questions, please post them to the chat in the video call here, and I'll make sure that we get answers back to you. If you're viewing this after the webinar, please reach out to us and we'll be sure to send you the questions and answers that were shared before. So on that note, why don't we get started? We try and do this under 10 minutes just to respect everyone's time, and we can go from there. So let's get started. All right, so we've been speaking to a lot of schools lately. We have a lot of clients in independent schools, public schools, language schools, and some other environments, even in corporate teaching. And we've had a lot of queries lately for some suggestions on hybrid learning. So we figured we would put our ideas and our thinking together here into a webinar, just so we can share it with as many people as possible and answer some questions. So we've had a lot of dialogue lately and a lot of questions coming to us from various schools. We've also asked a lot of questions, engaged with some educators, some teachers, some administrators, and just trying to get a feel for what's going on as we move forward and how we might be able to address some of those with some technology solutions. So some of the objectives that have been uncovered during that process is that many schools have a vision where about half of the students are going to be in the classroom at a time, and the other half are going to be working remotely, either from home or from other parts of the school. And the objective here is to try and create a hybrid model where even the students that are working remotely are more engaged than they might otherwise be if they're just using a traditional Zoom or Microsoft Teams environment. So everything we put together here today is designed to run on that environment, but we're trying to take the experience to the next level so that your students at home are fully engaged and part of the classroom when the teacher's teaching. So we want to make sure we're connecting classroom with distributed students. We want to also engage teachers with those distributed students and make sure that students at home are able to engage with the teachers, the content, and their peers in the classroom. So we're trying to create a synchronous environment where discussion and questions can go back and forth between the home-based students, the teacher, and the students in the class, and really enable that two-way collaboration. One of the big things that many people told us is they want to make sure that whatever we do, we want it to be easy to use. We can't be fiddling around, and that's obviously a really important objective for a lot of people. So we've kept that in mind as well. So there's a few things as we sat down with our partners at Forte Designers and we laid out all of the objectives here. There's a few things that we need to capture, and I thought I'd just go through those very quickly for you now so you understand our thinking on how we're approaching this. So imagine the teacher is in the classroom, 10 or 12 students are in the classroom with that teacher, 10 or 12 students are perhaps working remotely from home, and maybe you're using a software, a conferencing tool. A lot of the schools seem to be using Zoom or Teams or Google Hangout. So imagine you're using one of those three. What we want to do is create and add the audio and the camera shot video into that environment so that a teacher can conduct a lesson at the front of the classroom and have a student at home essentially feel like they're sitting at the back of the classroom. They can hear the teacher, they can see the teacher, they can hear their students asking questions, their colleagues, their peers. And when they ask a question, the teacher is seamlessly able to receive that question as well, audibly, and be able to respond to it. So rather than having a disjointed local and remote teaching environment, we really have created a hybrid environment here. So in order to do that, we need two-way microphone and sound system. So we're going to talk about a few options there. We're going to talk about two-way screen sharing. So most of you already have this in place. And as I said before, most often Zoom or RingCentral or Google Hangouts or Microsoft Teams, and they all have pros and cons. And our job today is not to change your decision on that. It's really just to create an environment that can work with any of those platforms. Some teachers may also want a reference monitor in the class. So imagine the teachers at the front of the class, they've got their content on the monitor to their left as they're teaching at the front of the class. There may also be value in having an additional reference monitor that allows them to see remote students as they speak. So that monitor could either be at the back of the classroom, or that monitor could just be a large, maybe a 30-inch monitor on the teacher's desk. And if you were using something like Zoom, as the remote student asks a question, the teacher would obviously be able to see them and speak to them. Not necessary, but certainly a nice to have in this environment. And we also want to create a system that's easily deployable. There's going to be a high demand for this stuff. There's going to be limited installation resources, and a lot of schools and school boards, for various reasons, need and want to do these installations themselves. We've tried to create an environment here where you can self-deploy, or alternately, if you need help, we have some professional services we can offer as well. So we talked a little bit about this already: teacher in the classroom, some students in the classroom, and then some students working from home. We want to create that synchronous communication between all of them so that no matter who speaks or who answers, the whole environment is connected. So let's talk about some important interactions here. The teacher must see and be seen. So the teacher must be able to see the classroom, see the students in the classroom. They must be able to see the remote students as well, either on their computer in the classroom or, like I say, through that reference monitor. That allows them to know what's going on and be able to gauge, is the student engaged? Are they having a dialogue? Can they connect with them? All students must be able to hear and to speak. So if you're a student in the classroom, not only do you want to hear the teacher well, who might be wearing a mask, you also want to be able to hear your peers at home. So if a student at home asks a question, the classroom should be able to hear that question be communicated through a sound system in the classroom, so that there's, again, that synchronous communication. They hear the question from the remote student, the teacher then answers the question, and the remote student's able to hear them. We mentioned masks. A lot of people are still wearing masks, I suspect, you know, we don't know where this is going to go, but I think as we move forward here, we're going to see a lot of cases where masks are in high demand, and teachers are going to want to be wearing masks in those environments. We need to make sure that not only do we allow the microphone system to work well with a mask, but we may in fact need a voice lift system in the classroom to take the otherwise muffled speech from the teacher and make sure that those students at the back of the classroom can hear it. And of course, we need content shared with all. So you may have a presentation on your computer like I do today, whether you're here in my office, which is essentially the classroom, or you're at home, you should all be able to see the same information. Some of you are using projectors and screens. Some of you are using flat screen monitors. Some of you are using interactive panels. And obviously your teaching, the way you teach is going to differ depending on the tools you have there. But we're presuming that we're going to work from the base that you already have, be that interactive panels or flat screens, and then we're going to add the audio and video pieces here for rapid deployment. So a typical classroom for most of you is you have a projector or a flat panel, you have a computer of some sort. In many cases, our clients, teaching clients, have a laptop, MacBook, or maybe a PC laptop. And in some cases, they have a dedicated PC in the classroom. None of that needs to change. Obviously, the teaching is being managed through the software program on the laptop. It's being displayed to one of the display devices. And then we're going to tack on, as I said before, the audio and the video piece. So let's talk about audio options. We've come up with two options that are really quick, easy to deploy, and really these are at two different price points. So I'm not going to talk about pricing on this presentation today. I'm going to give you the link so that you can request pricing on it, just so that you can compare the whole environment. But we've really tried to structure this program in a modular way. So if you have some of these components already, you can add the ones you don't have, or you can decide how far you want to go. So let's talk about audio options. Really, we've come up with two options. One is the Juno by Front Row. So Juno is a voice lift product. So there's a, I'm just going to put it on here. There is a pendant microphone that a teacher would wear around their neck. And what the pendant microphone does is it's quite comfortable. It's IR. It connects to the speaker device that you're seeing on the video here today. And it allows me in the classroom to speak normally and softly, perhaps wearing a mask, and lift that audio through the speaker in the classroom so that even the students at the back of the class are hearing well. And there's all sorts of science and studies that just talk about the value of voice lift to help students, especially young students, engage. All of this system is going to be connected to my laptop. So as I'm teaching and maybe I'm doing a Microsoft Teams call, all the remote students are going to be hearing me really well because this microphone is picking it up. So not only am I lifting the audio in the room, I'm sending the audio out through Teams or Zoom or Hangouts. Conversely, when the students on the other end ask a question, the home-based student, their question will also come through the Juno. So the Juno then is able to take the audio incoming and convey it back to the class. And again, that creates that synchronous communication so that as the remote student asks a question, the class hears it. They then hear me as the teacher answer the question, and everyone's connected, and there's no need for back and forth or toggling in any sort. So we'll summarize the link for the Juno at the end here, along with pricing, so we can get that pricing to you. Let's talk about option two. So option two is some sort of a headphone or headset solution. I've shown a Plantronics solution there. What I will tell you is that headsets are in high demand right now. They're very hard to get. You can imagine with hundreds or thousands or millions of workers being sent home to work that everyone's been buying these headsets to have proper conferences. What I will say about the headsets is we most likely want to have a single ear device. You'll see I'm wearing my Bose headphones today, just because that's my sort of go-to for my webinars. But if I was teaching a class, having a single ear Bluetooth microphone is likely the best solution. That means that my other ear is free to hear properly, and I'm going to hear remote student questions come in through my headset. And then of course the boom mic is going to give me really good and focused pickup. The upside of this solution is it's going to be quite a bit more budget focused than the Juno. But from a features point of view, it's quite a bit more limited. So you're not going to get the remote questions coming out in the classroom. You're not going to tie that into the audio unless your computer's already tied into a classroom audio system. What you are going to get is really clear voice pickup from the teacher and conveyance of that voice to the conference and the students working from home. So two options there, one full featured, one value oriented. We're trying to give you two choices there. I should add too, with regards to the headsets, they are back ordered. There's quite a bit of, there's quite a back order on the inventory. So we have not suggested a particular model. There's a whole number of models, and we'll work with you if you're interested to source the right model for you, but also the right model that's available at the time through the suppliers. And just a little bit more on the Juno there. I think we covered it all. Again, just a reminder with the headset that you're not, the one big downside is you're not going to get the voice lift in the classroom, and you're not going to get the remote questions coming into the classroom. All right, and then the other thing we need to do is add a camera. So there's really two options here. And we've decided that probably the best way to do this is either permanently install the camera at the back of the classroom. So if I was the teacher here, I'd be having a camera looking at me. So imagine you're a student standing in the back of the camera, back of the classroom, and your outlook on the classroom is towards the front, towards the teacher, and seeing all of the students as well as the teacher. Two options here really, and a few different nuances, but essentially the same thing. So option one would be this Atlona pan-tilt zoom camera. The advantage here, you're going to get a 10 times zoom, you get a better lens, you're going to get more light control with this camera. We would suggest that you ceiling mount this at the back of the classroom, or possibly put it on a tripod if you want it to be a more temporary installation. Generally a great camera, purpose-built conference camera. The pan tilt zoom can be controlled by the teacher. So if there's instances where the teacher wants a close-in shot on something they're doing at the front of the classroom, they can do that. And the teacher has full control over that. And we'll just move forward here. The second option is the Hudley IQ. So really cool conference camera if you haven't seen it. It has digital audio tracking and zoom, so it's able to look at who's in the room. It's able to use facial recognition, and it will auto zoom in or auto zoom out. Not sure in all cases whether that's going to be the best solution for a classroom, but that feature can be turned off. In some cases, it may be beneficial, so we can use it. I think where this camera really shines is it's cost effective. It's high definition or 4K. And the form factor is quite small, so we can mount it easily from the ceiling. And it doesn't give you the same versatility that a larger camera does, but it certainly gives you a lot of the features for in a much smaller and simpler package. So once you've taken your base system, you've added an audio option to it, and then you've added a camera option to it, that you then have the choices set up. So there's really two ways we can do this. Option one is we've created a really nice step-by-step IKEA-style self-installation manual, and we'll provide that with you with any of these purchases at no charge. We can also make some of our installers available to provide remote support if needed on an hourly basis if your installation team needs help. So self-supported, self-installed, no charge, option available to you. If you'd prefer us to do it, we can also have our professional teams do the installation for $810 per classroom. And just a caveat there, subject to site inspection. So we base that pricing estimate based upon what I'll call an average classroom. We will need to inspect it. In some cases, you may need to add additional costs for wire mold or some of the cable management. But otherwise, if you have a T-bar ceiling and you have drywall walls, we should be able to mount the camera, get the Juno installed, and have it all done for $810. Of course, if you opt not to go with the Juno and go with the headset, the installation is essentially unnecessary other than the camera. So we will have a reduced price for the camera only installation. And then finally, we offer user training. So obviously we're in a very unique time. We can't do a lot of in-person hand-to-hand training. And we also want to encourage remote learning. So there's really two options here. One is we'll do a remote video user training, very similar to what we're doing now, with the ability to walk someone through. We'll have a similar system set up in our space so that we can essentially teach a remote lesson from our learning space with either of the devices. And that session will run $300, and it would have a maximum of 10 people on that call. So if you and that's just to make it manageable. If you want to have larger groups, we can do multiple sessions, $300 per session. We can also do larger groups in person, provided social distancing is arranged with the school, and we can do that for $700 per session. So just to wrap up, we're coming close to the end of our time here. I really appreciate everyone's time. I hope this is useful. A few promises. We did say we would summarize the questions and answers. So if you want to email colbyh@conti.ca, I'll get you a summary of the questions and our answers for the Q&A. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. A couple of things I want to highlight for you. Really limited availability on this stuff right now. So we're trying to put together packages that are rapidly deployable so that we can seize this inventory while it's available. If this is something that's of interest to you, we'd love to hear from you so that we can execute it quickly. We have limited installation spaces. So many of you will self-install. For those of you who need installation support, we have a very limited number of spaces left in July and August to be prepared for September. So at a certain point in midsummer, we'll no longer be accepting bookings because it just won't be doable by the time school goes back. And we want to make sure all of the clients are fully deployed, trained, and ready to roll for back to school in September. We do have leasing options available through our partners at RCAP Leasing. For those of you who haven't worked with RCAP, they're a division of the Royal Bank. They do some very innovative financing, and a lot of schools find them useful. They can do stuff like structure payments where there's no payments over the summer. They can structure payments on longer terms or shorter terms, so a ton of flexibility there. And I've left a link on the page here, conti.ca/hybrid will take you to our summary page on this. If you go to that page, you're going to see a few things. You're going to see an overview of our program. You're going to see a link to view this webinar again and the recording. And you're going to see a link to submit a form for pricing on your schools. So because we're expecting high demand on this, we ask that you just make it as efficient as possible for all of us. We're going to put a form on there that's going to ask you about the number of classrooms, the type of systems you're using now, and then that allows us to, and the physical space as well. So we're going to ask you some questions about the ceiling and walls and flooring. And provided you answer those questions very quickly, you can send it off to us. That allows our team to turn around an estimate back to you very quickly and make it really, really simple. So with that said, thank you all for your time today. I appreciate you making the time to come and check this out. We did decide to record this as a webinar just because it's an easier way to have the discussion with a lot of people right now, rather than 50 different phone calls. So I appreciate you taking the time. If you have any questions, please hit us up at conti.ca/hybrid. And we look forward to speaking with you about getting some hybrid solutions into your school for September. Thank you.